To the honorable scholars, imams, community leaders, and equally honorable brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله ولي الصالحين وأشهد أن سيدنا وأسوتنا محمدا صلى الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله وسلم عبد الله ورسوله. So, first of all, let me say it's an honor and privilege to be here with you this evening, here in Southern California, in support of this very important work and mission that the Shura Council is doing. And I'd just like to reiterate what was said at the very end, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Hadith Qudsi, Anfiq ya ibn Adam, unfiq alayk. Spend, O child of Adam, then I will spend on you. And the beloved Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi wa sallam said, Man naqasa sadaqatan min mal, that giving and charity and sadaqah should not decrease your wealth. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward each and every one of you for the charitable giving that you will do this evening for support of your community organization. Now, I had something planned to say earlier that I'm going to augment, because after seeing our young adults who are in university come up here on stage and also seeing the doctors, and especially the last testimony of Sheikha Ustadha Haifa, may Allah preserve her and preserve everyone, that I think that I need to augment a little bit of what I planned on saying. From resilience to strength, of course, resilience is a form of strength. And no matter how politically empowered that we think we may be, socially political, there's always going to be tests and always going to be things that will come our way that are going to test us, that we need to respond to in a diligent, courageous way. And as an African American who comes from an interfaith background, when my mother went to segregated school, she's still a Christian. My father, who went to high school across from Temple number 1 in the Nation of Islam, and that was my gateway into the Sunnah, was through that background in the leadership of Imam Wahdi Muhammad Rahmatullah Ali. 400 years of the black experience with black mayors, a former black president, and young black men still get killed unjustly by police. So I'm saying this as a fact of realism, that there's always things that our community, as a faith community, for the foreseeable future, wallahu a'lam, will need resilience, however, strength. I interpret this as وَلِلَّهِ إِزَّةُ وَلِرَسُولِهِ وَلِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ is how I interpret this. That izzah, dignity, honor, strength, respect, where does this emanate from? From Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's the owner of it. And extends to his messenger, Al-Habib Al-Mustafa sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam. And then through to the believers. One of the great scholars of the past, Al-Arif Billah, Al-Imam Kabir, Ahmed Al-Rafa'i Al-Shafi'i, Qaddasallahu Ruha. He said, مَتَنَزَّى بِغَيْرِ اللَّهِ ذَلَّ. Whoever seeks honor or strength from other than Allah, he or she shall be humiliated. So this is first the part where our strength comes from. Another dua, just very briefly before I continue the thought. Mansub is connected to Sayyidut Tabi'een, Uwais al-Qarani, Rahmatullahi ta'ala. Where it's reported that he said, Antal Aziz wa ana dhalil. وَهَلْ يَرْحَمُ الذَّلِيلَ إِلَّا عَزِيزٌ مَوْلَايَ يَا مَوْلَايَ. You are the honorable one. You are the one with might. You are the one with strength. He's saying to Allah, and I am the weak. I am the lowly. And who can give mercy to the lowly except for the strong one, the one who has izzah, the one who has might? My master, oh my master. So number one, when talking about our strength and moving forward, being a Muslim in America surely, most definitely has socio-political implications. But we have to be careful that as we seek to be empowered and to get this strength, that we don't reduce ourselves to some sort of socio-political identity, to some sort of quasi-ethnic identity. We are Muslims. What makes us Muslim? This deen, in its totality, is based in its fullness, the realities of the hadith Jibreel alayhi salam and the tartib I'm going to mention from Abu Huraira radiallahu an fi Sahih al-Bukhari in al-Iman wa Islam wa Ihsan. Al-Iman, that we have certain beliefs that we must have as Muslims. We must believe that Allah is God and He's one. No partners or associations. He doesn't have a body. He doesn't come in a person. He's not confined to a makan, to a location. We must believe this. We believe in prophecy and the finality of that in Al-Habib Al-Mustafa Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the last prophet and the last human messenger. Because all prophets are messengers, all messengers are prophets, but all prophets aren't messengers. Certain things we must believe in. This represents what we must intellectually understand as Muslims. Al-Islam, my teachers taught me, this represents in a sense the ahkam of Islam. The rulings, because for the fiqh, for instance, salah is the second pillar, there are shurut, there are conditions that we must understand. Tahara is a condition of salah, for instance. So we must learn the rules of tahara in order to have valid salah. So these are rulings. We must know the rulings of zakah. This is fard ayn, individual responsibility, not just for the mufti or the sheikh or for Dr. Muzammo, jazahullahu khairan. All of our responsibility to know these things. Rulings. So our deen is mind and also body. In al-ihsan, to worship God as if we see a God, as if we see God. But if you do not see God, then know that God sees you. And this represents the purification of the inward self. So our deen is about mind, body, and soul, and this is how we get strengthened and empowered. And we can't leave off any of these three, and we must have proper belief, must have proper faith. This is one thing I'd like to mention. This is very important and sometimes overlooked because we have to have our priorities correct as Muslims. We have to prioritize things and put things in their proper places. The second thing, my brothers and sisters in Islam, and this relates to this theme of strength, is that we as Muslims, and Dr. Subah, may Allah preserve him, pointed towards this. In order for us not to be pushed around or bullied, there's something that needs to be shifted amongst us. And I believe that's already taking place. I like to use the word a change of mindset. It's a change of heart set. We as Muslims should be seeing ourselves as leaders, not as followers. We should not ever feel comfortable, overly comfortable, to be underneath other people's umbrellas or be involved in tashabbuh, to imitating other people. And I don't mean in dress. That's simplistic. Tashabbuh, just talking about physical appearance. I'm talking about in other people's epistemologies and ways of understanding knowledge and ways of looking at the world. Know, my brothers and sisters in Islam, that any philosophy, any theory of activism or organizing, any theory of social change is not based in the transcendency of God and then the uswatun hasana of Habibullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is going to be wanting and deficient and or will cause some unintended harm. Doesn't matter. Come from critical theory. It could come from whatever sort of philosophy or way of viewing the world. There's going to be something deficient about it. Hence, we ourselves, in seeing ourselves as leaders, we are the ones that are supposed to embrace our own epistemology, our own form of understanding objective truth, and we are the ones not only supposed to embody it and live it, we are the ones that's supposed to be trying to introduce these new ways of thinking and knowledge production to the broader society. Not copying everyone else. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر وتؤمنون بالله. You are the best nation brought out for humankind. Why? Because you enjoin the known good proven standards. El-Ma'ruf. You forbid that which goes against the Ma'ruf, el-Munkar. That which is despicable. That which takes human beings away from the best of their God-given potential. And you believe in the oneness of Almighty God. And the sequence, the tartib of this ayah is actually very interesting because Tawheed is mentioned in the last of the three in the sequence. So we are supposed to see ourselves as leaders, thought leaders, leaders of knowledge production. SubhanAllah, when we look at the golden age of what some people call Moorish Spain or Muslim Spain, we know it's El-Andalus. Do we realize that in almost that 7 centuries of golden age of Islamic thought and in scientific discovery led by Muslims, Muslims were never a numerical majority in Al-Andalus. Ahlul Kitab was always a numerical majority, Jews and Christians. Yet this was the golden age. Jewish scholars say this, the golden age of Jewish thought and production of art was under the shade of Muslim rule in Europe. In Europe. So this is something for us to live up to when we're talking about strength. So keep this in mind. And we have to be very careful, and again, as we swim in the seas of this water here in the United States of America and the broader West, that certain things that we maybe have learned in the academy or in the socio-political environment that we may have taken as a fact, there's certain things we may need to reinterrogate, including the language that we use, the nomenclature that we use, where there are certain assumptions and certain things baked into certain things we may say, right? The other point I like to make, and we're talking and referencing, strength, izzah, not wanting to be underneath everyone else's umbrella. This is especially true for us who are involved in Islamic organizations, and even more particular in regarding organizing and activism spaces. I came up with this idea, this phrase about a decade ago or so. It is, who funds you runs you. Who funds you runs you. We as a community can maybe strategically get certain money here and there. We should never feel comfortable with our hands out begging other people to give us money. اليد العلى خير من اليد السفلى من أقوال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. The hand that's like this, the hand that gives, is superior to the hand that's like this. Unfortunately, I have to say this just for clarification purposes for someone, because there may be some Aqidah police in here. Mr. Elijah Muhammad, the teacher of Malcolm X. Tomorrow is Malcolm X Day. It's the 59th day, the 59th year of Malcolm X Day. He was martyred 59 years ago. His birthday's tomorrow. Mr. Muhammad said, "Do for self or suffer the consequences." We have a group of people, a group within a group, not the entire community. There's a group within a group of a community that sees us as a strategic threat. They are about the same percentage of the American population as we are as American Muslims. Yet this community, in their wealth, they are philanthropists, they fund certain foundations, and they use the money they give to socially engineer certain things, to get the support of people, or to silence people, to make people intimidated and scared because they will lose their money. We wouldn't approach it in the same way, but instead of us seeking to get money from other people in such ways, we are the ones with all the wealth, with all the millionaires, multimillionaires that we have in the American Muslim community. I know there's some ballers here in Southern California. Not only should we be supporting our own organizations without having our hands out to other people, we should be the one who are dispensing funds for the betterment of the American society and using that soft power to say, hey, the Muslims are a community to be reckoned with. You're not going to mess with us. This is what we have to grow to. This is something aspirational. Can we do this right now? No. So this should be in our thought and our strategic planning. Again, we should never feel comfortable as a community of Izzah of being under people and having our hands out when we should be doing for ourselves. That we should not be expecting others to do for us what we should do for ourselves. This was the message of Malcolm X. This is my childhood hero. He's still my hero. SubhanAllah, the autobiography of Malcolm X, I said this to some of my elders and they agree. You can take the most popular du'at in America. Our beloved Imam Siraj Wahaj, Hafidhullah Ta'ala. Imam Zayd Shakir, Hafidhullah Ta'ala. You can take the biggest of the best and their little brother, the Fakir. All of our preaching and all of our writing hasn't equaled 1% of the da'wah of the autobiography of Malcolm X. Not even 1% of calling people to this deen and inspiring people. And inspiring people who are not African American, who maybe have lost their way to come back to practice of the deen. So my brothers and sisters in Islam, I had to take too long and go to the dessert. وَلِلَّهِ إِزَّةُ وَلِرَسُولِهِ وَلِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَلَكِنَّ الْمُنَافِقِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Izzah is to who? It's to Allah. And it's to his messenger, Muhammad ibn Abdullah ibn Abdul Muttalib ibn Hashim, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And to the believers. But the hypocrites, they don't know. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us be amongst the believers and not amongst the hypocrites. Say Ameen. Our priorities. We do what we do for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's where our real strength comes from. And if all the people are displeased with us, but we know that what we are doing is conform with the Quran and Sunnah, and we are doing it in a way that we are not trying to intentionally offend people, even if all of the people don't like what we're doing, we should feel comfortable in that. Just as Ibrahim alayhi salam was comfortable in rejecting the idols and was put in that situation of the fire coming to burn him, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the fire to be cool. Izzah. And within this, our Izzah, let us see ourselves as being the thought leaders of America, of producing new ideas, not following everyone else down the lizard hole, not copying everyone else's language, everyone else's nomenclature, everyone else's ways of understanding of being. And let us do something for ourselves. And not only invest and build foundations, establish al-Qaf to fund our Islamic institutions, that we begin, that other people in American society come to us looking for monetary help. We ask Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us izzah. Allahumma izzal Islam wa muslimin. Allahumma su ikhwana fi Gaza wa Palestine wa fi kulli makan bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin ya arhamar rahimin ya arhamar rahimin farj anil muslimin wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Assalamu alaikum.